Well, hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We have one more presenter, and of course, last but not least, a very dear friend of mine and somebody with a name you'll probably recognize. Today in the house, we've got George Foreman the Fourth, aka Big Wheel. He is Big Wheel to me and Big Wheel to everybody that knows him well. But with a Foreman last name, you gotta wonder, like, what is it like to be part of such a famous family?
Yeah.
So we're going to dive into that a little bit, but what I really want to ask George today, and what I encourage you to do is think about some good questions, is what is it like when you are in the midst of so much athleticism, to own your own athleticism, and to be part of a legacy that is worldwide? And how do you train for that? How do you stay in that mode without being overwhelmed? And maybe just a little bit of like family wisdom insight. So without further ado, Mr. Foreman, welcome.
Well, it's honored to be here with you, Maria. The fit food, you've been a great inspiration to me on my life as an athlete, as a growing entrepreneur.
Oh my gosh, what an honor!
Keep up the good work and great job with what you're doing here. You touched on a great point as an athlete and being surrounded by athletes. You got to think about what ingredients they give you that help forge you into the best athlete you want to be. So my dad fought his last fight at 46. So as I get older, I think about preserving my good health into my 40s and 50s. What do I have to do right now? I'm 32. Okay, well, what did guys do well that prevented them from being great in their 40s and 50s? So that's what I think about. And that goes in the diet, endurance, right? Thinking about what foods you have to do to endure, especially since COVID hit. I mean, that really made me think about my diet, what I'm eating, and how that affects everything, including my immune system. So endurance is not just being able to run 6 miles in time. Endurance is not just 5 rounds and a quick recovery to the 6. Endurance is what you eat and how it makes you.
I think it's what you put in it from the beginning, and I can only imagine, growing up with a world-class athlete as your father. And seeing what he went through. I mean, share with us just a little bit about what were meals like at home with your family. And you've got a lot of people around the table.
Well, good thing for me, my dad is the burger king. And like truly, he is the king of the grill.
I mean, the grill. Let's talk about the grill here for a second, right?
Because of the grill, he loved to cook for everyone. He was always cooking something up for everyone to try. And everyone in my family is a connoisseur of steak and salmon fillet and broccoli with balsamic vinegar. Like these are things that are just commonplace in part of our appetite. So if you could just work up the nerve to stay at the table and keep eating what's coming, food just kept coming. And what I had to learn to do was build an appreciation for good food and avoid things that were going to make me feel unwell over time. So the food was present. That's one thing. All my brothers are also George Foremans, and they eat like George Foremans too. So I had to accept really quickly, I can't keep up with these guys. So eat well.
How many Foremans would gather around the table for dinner at any one time?
No, I mean, you have your walking around family, which is maybe like 4 or 5 people, maybe 6. But when everyone gets together, it just multiplies. It just continues to come. And there's always enough food. Everyone has their meal or their dish. I like to stop at a barbecue place before every family meal. So I bring something because I haven't figured out what my dish is yet. But I'll find it.
Would you call the influence of the food that was on the table? Would you consider that something that was healthy? I mean, obviously burgers and things like that. I mean, everything within moderation. But would you say that you felt like you would come away from the table feeling energized by the food?
There's been processes. I think there was a time in my life where my father had the mindset of a fighter, and what you have to eat in fuel to fight is one diet and appetite.
Yeah.
And what you have to eat in fuel to live, to live long and to live healthy is a whole nother focus. So depending on what time it was in my life is what I saw experiencing food, but there was always variety. If there was fruits and veggies spread out, always big bowls of fruit in the house. That was the snack life. And those things really taught you how to seek energy. Hot water with honey, hot water with honey. My mom baptized me in hot water with honey and lemon every morning for my immune system and pushing me out the door onto the football field.
I mean, she knew about that years ago.
She was keen. I think we come from a lot of farmers in my family too, a background of a lot of farmers. And in farming, being able to get up and do your best every day, never falling behind from a physical standpoint, being able to keep up the load of taking care of a farm and agriculture, that fueled a lot of appetite and diet that was passed on to us as athletes.
And share where your mom is from.
So my mom is from a small island called St. Lucia in the Caribbean.
St. Lucia. So, and I've had the pleasure
of banana plantation, banana farming.
Yeah.
So beautiful place.
St. Lucia. It's a beautiful place. Would you say kind of her background too had, infused the flavors of your food?
Absolutely. My mother loved fresh produce and fresh vegetables, and she loved to use it to cook. She loves to use it to cook. And she incorporated that, and she would make pressed veggie juices when I was a child. And be like, who's going to drink this? And I wanted to show her I could. And sometimes I plug my nose for a little bit and cringe, but I think it built the ingredients that you need later.
Yeah.
Here are the things that you need to have to be a great athlete. If kids learn it, you get past that fear of good nutrition as a child, then you don't have to supplement it with artificial things that are going to get you banned later. So why not build the good appetite of a good athlete as children? Make them try, commit to the broccoli young, and then later on they won't be trying to mix and match artificial pills or supplements in order to make themselves healthy. It's about your appetite.
Well, and you bring up a great point, because I think a lot of kids now, performance is like elevated into a place we've never seen before at a much younger age. And I think they're artificially leaning into things because they're cool or they're something that other people are doing. When you were growing up, what sports did you do, by the way, when you were growing up?
Oh, I did everything. Yeah. I think my introduction to sports was watching my dad and all his male friends fight, literally glove up and fight. And that was my introduction to sports.
I mean, you're seeing your dad glove up and pump. I can't even imagine.
No, it was like going to work. That's what it was. And every day was about becoming a better athlete, a better fighter, improving from injury. A lot of my life, I thought my dad was an axeman because he was always taking care of an axe and chopping down a tree. That's just what he did. And then sometimes when it was really rare, he'd go out to Atlantic City or to Alaska or to Galveston, Texas, and fight someone on TV. And if I could stay up late enough, I could watch it. That's what life was.
Yeah.
And when I saw that this axeman was actually a martial artist, I was maybe 16 or 17 years old before I realized there was a true art to what he was doing. And I had the blessing of being able to see his art and the artists around him that helped fine tune and craft his martial art. So I've tried to also share that with the world and say, it's not just about being the best athlete or hurting someone else more, but it's also being a good martial artist and taking care of your body and the art, the craft that we learn and teach boxing.
That's so interesting. And the craft of, I'm an avid, I'm an avid boxing enthusiast. I just watched a couple fights last night, but I think it's unusual for a woman. It's becoming more accepted. I think, you see female boxers, but not really that much. Did you ever feel like, sports are, if you're a woman, you do one thing. And if you're a guy, you do another thing. Or in your family, was it because your dad was in it? Like everybody was in the gym?
Yeah, actually the first fighter outside of my dad in my family was my sister Frida. And seeing her step up and really master the craft. I remember her moving to Colorado to train and just submerging herself in the sport. It was the women, it was the girls in my family that you feared. They all got careers in something else, but it was really the girls that were the toughest competitors, and it made us as boys try to say, okay, well, I guess since my sister's got a good jab, I can learn to have a good jab too. And I guess since Frida has 5
Don't mess with
belts,
Frida.
I'll be no, and Frida's not with us anymore, but the legacy that she left of you girls can do it too.
Yes.
There's not even a question. Can women or girls? It was never a question in my family. It was like, yes, women and girls can do it. Can the boys? So I have another brother who boxed after Frida, and it was like, how do I keep up with the bar Frida set?
That's, the mindset of a warrior, of a fighter, it's so much more than the performance. And I think for those of you watching who frequent the Fit Expo, you walk around, you see the other athletes, you see all of their performances, the effort that goes into it, just the countless hours of training and discipline and focus on nutrition to be that kind of elite athlete. But what I think you can't see is the mental discipline and the mental headset that these people have. What did you see from both your dad and your siblings about that emotional and mental space that they owned? Because you can't walk into a ring without having a whole lot of confidence in yourself and not getting psyched out when things are not going well.
No, that's exactly right. I think what the foundation of it all is training to overcome adversity. Train to overcome adversity. Creating adversity in your training, in your everyday routine, waking up at 4 a.m. to go run, regularly, consistent, day after day, staying up late, watching film, practicing technique. These are things every athlete in every sport, every athlete in every sport has to overcome. These are adversities. So when you're in the field of competition and your eye is cut and you're bleeding, for me it was in football. You think, oh, I'm having a great game, and then suddenly my nose has exploded in my helmet and there's blood all in my visor. Yeah. And if I tell anyone, they're going to take me off the field. So you just clean it off and you keep playing. But these are things that you don't just do; you train for it. And I think if you can practice implementing adversity in your day-to-day and overcoming it, create it for yourself, and then overcome it in practice, then when it comes up in competition, or if you get a business deal that just bombs, it doesn't shut you down. You're like, you know what? I've been doubled over in worse pain than this before, so I can still stand. I can prepare for round 2. And that's the mentality you have to train and build for yourself. It's hard, but it's required.
I love what you said about kind of prepare for adversity every day, because I feel like we hear about adversity and we run from it, or the general instinct is to run from it. But you're saying there is something to be learned about embracing it and letting that be your trainer to some extent. Was there some adversity that you faced that you walked away from saying, I'm really glad that I faced it head on?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was staying focused and getting a formal education. There was all this temptation to leave school, all this temptation to forge a unique path that was away from a college degree. I don't know why that is. You look up and there's a lot of temptation to leave school, or to leave getting certified, or to leave getting a formal education. It was, if I could just stay on track and complete my educational task point, that became the adversity. I mean, every time I looked up, my GPA was putting me in question, but saying, you know what? No, stay focused. No, try it again. Take the class again. That's where my adversity really hit. Because at 19, I could have said, you know what? I'm not listening to my parents, and I'm going to really train. I'm going to do like my sister did and move to Colorado, try to work in the Olympic Village and fight. That would have been so easy, but the hard thing to do was to go to college and get a degree. A big inspiration of mine, a fighter named Jenny Futch. She's a aspiring U.S. gold medalist, and she'll be, look for her in the Olympic competitions coming up. But she got her formal college degree, and now she's chasing to be an Olympic gold medalist. And that's the biggest inspiration to me, like being able to stay on task and complete each objective.
Yeah.
That's adversity.
Yeah. I think as an athlete, and I had this conversation with my son yesterday. So I hope I'm not putting him on the spot, but he wants to play pro basketball. And he was like, Mom, I just, I'm so jealous of people who are born with natural height. And I said to him, but babe, sometimes that's not the only gift that we, God gives us all types of different gifts. And maybe we don't advance in one thing, but we have the ability to bounce back and go into something else. Did you ever feel like you really wanted to be a professional athlete and maybe like that wasn't the path that you were supposed to take? Or was that ever really something that you considered?
Being a professional athlete is something that, especially in my family, that we all warred with, because we know what it is. We see firsthand what it's like to come home with your shield, and your war wounds, and to be proud of your productivity. We saw what that looks like and what that feels like, and to have parades in your honor as an athlete. I think when you see what that looks like, you always, you have a taste for it at the tip of your tongue, but you also have to remember that's somebody else's life and journey, and you have to forge and create your own. Now, I had to accept that if I wanted to, the way that I played football with my head first mentality, it wasn't going to be sustainable for me to continue doing that much damage to myself if I wanted to also be a successful entrepreneur and businessman and speak clearly, and to live pain free and not. There's all these things that came up as being concerned for the health of my body that I decided the way that I played football, maybe it's not best to do it long term for me. Now, there are a lot of people who could finish a game with clean clean uniform and with no blood in their mouths. I wasn't one of those people, and the ones that were a unique build and unique design, and I look forward to training some of those athletes one day who are just like that, but accepting that this isn't for me, but I love it. I have a passion for it, so maybe I'll be able to teach it one day. That's humbling,
Yeah. Well, it's humbling, but at the same time,
George Foreman the third.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Say that again.
I'll tell you about him because he's my hero. He's about 6'5", 250 pounds. Fought at 237, and he was just a mountain of a man, a chiseled warrior. And I would see him train, and we train together, and I'd be like, man, I'm happy I'm not a fighter, because I have to fight a guy like that. So I picked the right career for me. I got my formal education in journalism, and I got to hang out with great entrepreneurs like Maria here. So it's been okay.
So I've had the pleasure of meeting your dad a couple of times, and he is quite the dude. I mean, not just an athlete, but an incredible entrepreneurial mind, and created kind of this empire. And you've had a big hand in that, and early on we met because of the whole, the interface that you guys created, curating healthy products. And certainly the George Foreman grill was I mean, talk about a household name. I think everybody I know has a George Foreman grill. But the whole idea behind that was to make a burger healthier, right? Was to make food better for you. And then you guys went on to create a whole website destination focused on better for you products. Where does your own personal interest in that come into play? And what are you doing to feed that desire and interest now?
You know, I was very fortunate, first and foremost, to be raised by a preacher. And what was really most valuable in the world was living a happy and healthy life. You know, being there with your family and being able to grow old with your loved ones and to carry on the legacy and make your parents proud. Those were the ingredients that made you wealthy and rich. So everything after that was about how do you share with the rest of the world products, services, lifestyle that promote good health, that promote wellness, that promote quality. Like my older brother Junior says, does it have quality, integrity, and can you trust it? Those are his vetting program for all products that we associate ourselves with. And it's having those ingredients as a young man, saying, you know, what kind of career do I want to have? I found that being a promoter of the ingredients for a happy and healthy life is the most successful career anyone could have, because everything that follows you, even the things that fail, the things that succeed, the things that are labeled to you are always that of good health and wellness and prosperity and things that you share, that if a child can enjoy it and a senior citizen can enjoy it, then it might be a good product. Those are the things we try to incorporate. And I can't avoid it now. You know, people with great products and great services and great stories find me everywhere I go. And they want me to help share their story and share their ideas and help them build on their brands. So that's what I do. And when I was in college, my brother was fighting, and I decided that I wanted to be a publicist and help tell stories and broadcast and promote stories. And I leaned into that. And so now, you know, almost 10 years later, you know, my PR firm has helped a lot of small businesses really become brands. And that's something I'm proud of. And I hope to really continue to do that.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, when you like, and people love stories, by the way, and they want to feel attached to something way beyond just a product that you see on the shelf. You know, when we came to you guys with this, and it looked different back then, this might have looked interesting, but it was more about the why. You know, my dad had cancer. He's an environmental scientist. I'm a chef. I'm a holistic nutrition coach. I know what toxins can do to your system. I know what pathogenic bacteria, when it tilts the scale, can do to your overall health. And so when you know my story and you know why I did it, it puts us on a different level. You know, it's not just about a product I'm peddling. It's about a solution, because I feel like this is going to be something that's going to help people's health more. And I believe that that's what you guys have done with everything that you've created. Do you think that your story or the legacy of the Foreman family is about sports, or is it about entrepreneurship, or is it about spirituality, or is it just really all of those? And I know the answer, but I want you to just kind of like, how anybody who sees Foreman is going to think sports, but it's really so much more than that.
Yeah, I think that's the joy of growing older and seeing my siblings and the things that they have been a part of, and what each individual who carries that brand, whether by choice or not, what they promote. And that's what the brand becomes. It's one thing when we're talking about cooking shows. It's a whole other where, you know, my dad's talking about his role as an Olympian in the 1960s and how that impact that had, his role as a preacher in the 1980s, making that transition. So it is all of these things, and we each have a duty as Foremans to promote what we were given, which is a story, and to tell that story. And I've tried to make sure that I surround myself with my family so that way I can continue to feed off of their energy and promote that story as well.
Yeah. And, you know, I think when you look at the story, like you said, it can be your story or it's not, maybe it's not your story, but you guys are a really tight-knit family. And, you know, you have the ranch where, you know, you're growing sustainably or raising sustainably raised cattle. I know your dad went through a pretty big change in his eating habits. Like, it seems like as a family, you guys really embrace not just the business, or you are a lifestyle together. What does that feel difficult to uphold, or is that just kind of what you're used to and that's what works?
It's what works. It's what we're used to. It's what we know. You know, to take it back, my dad would be in Las Vegas fighting for a world championship fight on Saturday night. And then Sunday morning, you'd see him packing up his stuff, putting on his tie, and walking into church. That level of balance we try to maintain and sustain. You know, I love my vacations in Las Vegas. You know, one of the greatest times of my life was in Chiang Mai, Thailand, getting like butler service. But at the end of the day, it's back to Marshall, Texas. Hay season is coming, and we need to be prepared. And no matter what, as long as you keep that balance.
Are you telling me you're bailing?
I'm the best hay baler in East Texas. I'll put my, and maybe I won't box the best, but I can hay bale out better than anybody. That's my claim.
That deserves a standing O right there. Any guy that can bale hay is a hero.
That would be, there you go. There you go. But I think it's keeping that balance. And my mother really was tough about that. You know, you want to show your kids both sides, and I try to pass that on to my kids too. My son knows that he's named George Foreman, and he knows what that means. But at the same time, he also knows what's required of him as a humble, decent young man, respectful young man.
I'm like, I could talk to you forever, as we usually do. Like, when we get talking, we can talk for hours and hours and hours. But the thing that I really was impressed by the most when I met you and your dad was your humility. And I think, you know, when you see that and you see it in practice and you see it over and over again, you know it's genuine and legitimate. What would be the piece of advice? And I have a couple questions before we end today that I want to ask you from people that are watching today. But what would be the piece of advice that you would give the striving young athlete who is like watching all the ballers, like living it up on their yachts, like, and they think that's just what the life is? I'm just curious if you could give a little bit of advice to them.
Yeah, I think you know, do your research on who you want, to identify who you want to be. I don't want to be like this player. I don't want to be like that athlete. Don't say you want to be like anybody, but do your research, see what the terrain looks like, and figure out who you want to be.
Yeah.
One thing I loved about sports, it's a great reminder that you don't want to be anybody but you. Because when you see somebody go from top to holding their knee on the court, and you realize having held my knee on the football field, what that feels like internally.
Yeah.
Standing on the sidelines after an injury, watching your teammates run onto a field, and you're there in sweats. I don't care how great you are, that feeling inside where you because of injury, or, you know, when it's fourth quarter and you know the ball is coming to you, and you know everyone else knows the ball is coming to you, but you still have to try.
Yeah. And
you know somebody's going to punish you for trying, but you still got to do it. That's the individuality that I found in sports. And I tell anyone, basketball, football, golf, figure out who you want to be.
Yeah.
And one of my greatest friends is a golfer, and she's a female athlete. And she's a great inspiration for me because she chose to be a businesswoman as well. And she talked about a thing she got called the yips, I think it was called, where for some reason short putts would frustrate her. And it didn't matter how great any of us were and how much we wanted to aspire to be a great golfer like her, she still found her obstacle.
Yeah.
And she was teaching me how to play golf, but at the same time still with her obstacle. So envy no athlete, but be inspired by them all and forge your own path. That would be my advice.
Envy no athlete and be inspired by them all. I need to write this down. Hold on a second. Envy no athlete, but so elegant, but be, oh, can I type right now?
Be inspired by them all.
Inspired by them all. Okay, if I have any typos, forgive me. Couple questions for you, my friend. What advice from Chica? What advice would you give for moms with young boys who are leaning towards sports like boxing and football?
I mean,
and I know what she's thinking.
I know.
Okay.
Well, there's one rule.
They're going to get hit, and they're going to get hit hard.
Yeah, that's life, you know, and they're going to hit people hard, and they'll make them feel good. But more than anything, protect your head at all times, period. Protect your head at all times. I think every mom, if your son wants to play football or boxing, protect your head at all times. If you want to be a boxer, never get hit. Give it a shot. Just try. Just try to hit and never get hit. And if you want to play football, just always protect your head and your face. Keep your feet up and never find yourself on the ground. You can actually play a football game and never hit the ground. It's hard, and you're great if you can do it. But shoot for that, you know. Protect your head at all times. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, and protect your head in the emotional sense too, right?
Amen. Amen.
Be confident, because again, I think like any elite athlete, they will tell you that it's all about like their mental space when they go. Like I watched LeBron. Like I was rooting on the Lakers. Okay, even my husband was like, "We got to root for the Lakers." But you know, watching LeBron like walk in and own the court. I mean, he's not a young pup anymore, but his swag and his mental place, you can just see it, you know? And I think that is where you see the champion mindset work. And that's where, honestly, you're going to prevent injury too, is because you got to be confident. When you're fearful, that's when accidents can happen.
That's right. That's right. And I think being able to say, you know what, as I want to play at a high level, another lesson from the gentleman you just mentioned, LeBron, he's also really concerned about preserving his health. I'm sure he doesn't make any plays in the game that are going to end in injury. That doesn't mean you don't do your best. You just preserve your health and well-being while you play the sport. That should be a priority. Every mom, let your son know, do your best, preserve your health and well-being.
Yes. By the way, your sister Natalie is on, and she says she's very proud.
You remember, she was at my football game. She was my cheerleader. And honestly, because of her cheering, a lot of people had to watch their sons get hurt because of her cheering me on in the bleachers. But she witnessed a lot of the injury, a lot of the recovery, and overcoming that adversity, saying, you know what, I want to play, so I'm going to really take my time and get better. And I'm going to be in the gym, long hours in the gym. Her and I talking about, and she has a good medical background, so she would talk to me about preserving the health of my muscles and my flexibility. To this day, I think she's still training to beat me in a race, and I'm training to make sure she doesn't beat me in a race. So,
that's so wonderful that you guys support each other like that. So Angela is saying, loving this topic, having 4 boys, all athletes. I learned that the best introduction to food and exercise was making sure that good food and exercise showed up regularly at the house. Our rule was never to discuss the food in a negative way. Instead, we asked our kids to eat what they wanted from their plate, and we would fill their plate with a rainbow of ingredients. They would often tell me that they don't eat XYZ, and I would say, tell it to the referee. I love that. Angela, it's so great.
Yeah, food competitions were the thing in my house. You know, like who can eat the most was one thing, but also, you know, here's something healthy. Who's willing to eat a raw head of lettuce?
I love that you challenge you to drink the juices, you know? And the truth is, what you like one day, or what you don't like, I should say, one day, is what you may very much love another day. I grew up really like disliking avocado. I had it was a textural issue.
Yeah,
I think I just got a mushy one, you know? No, avocado was like one of my favorite things on the planet. So I'm just saying, give it a chance and keep offering it to your kids. If they don't like it one way, prepare to. Smoothies are a great way to avoid texture adversity. You know, just throw it into a smoothie, then you don't have to worry about whether it's soggy or crunchy or whatever. They just, it smooths everything out and it's easy to get down. And by the way, I was telling you about Bunchy. I made Bunchy a smoothie with chocolate protein powder and I put spinach in it. He was like, "What are you talking about? There's spinach in here. No way." And I was like, "Yeah."
That's a mom hack. Everybody needs to take note of that. I'm taking that right now. I'm gonna get my son eating spinach and chocolate protein. He'll get that.
Chocolate protein, little banana, chocolate protein, and some peanut butter. You can throw almost anything in there with it. And Trish says, thank you to all the Foremans for what you bring to this world. And I would agree with her in saying that. Thank you for being such an amazing voice in the world. Your gentle and kind and humble spirit is a reflection of your upbringing. So kudos to your parents. And please give everybody a big hug for me. And thank you for your time today.
I will. No, thank you for all that you do. I think you really set the bar. I think everyone wants to be their best selves, you know, and I think you show that in order to be your best self, it's not just, you know, what you look like, just so happens you have to be this Hollywood model that you are and share that, but you show that it takes appetite, the diet, you know, the love and care that you share with your family. These are the things that bring you and make sure that you're at your best. You know, why be a great cook if you're not feeding and helping the lives of those around you? Ask yourself these questions. And I thank you for being an inspiration in all of that.
Oh, you're so kind. And look, never at any age, I mean, it's never too late. Your dad fought at 46.
Yeah.
Okay? We've got, I mean, Manny Pacquiao still fighting. Shoot. How old is he now? 40 something.
He's in his early 40s, but he's gonna fight for a world championship.
That guy is on fire. He's so fun to watch. But the point is, whether you're a pro or just getting started, it's never too late to take the first step. So I just want to thank everybody for being with us for this amazing full day of a lot of knowledge and wisdom being dropped. If you didn't get a chance to watch all the other presentations, try and do that. They will be living on here for as long as Facebook lets us. So do one a day, one a week, but get through them, because I think what you'll find, from managing your gut health to your mood to your stress, how to eat before you work out, how to eat after you work out, all of the wisdom that we've shared with George, just so much information. Oh, and of course, my oatmeal peanut butter chocolate chip breakfast cookies.
I'm getting it.
Yeah.
I'm adding that.
There's a lot here. So thank you guys for being here. And just really appreciate everybody being part of my Fit Tribe, because I do this for you. I could do it for myself, but then it would be just too good not to share. So until next time, we will see you very soon, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Here's to Sunday. Woo! Thank you. Bye, Big Will.
Bye-bye.